Is going live now. So once I see it pop up on my feed, I'll share it with you. All right, perfect. We are live. So let me tag JR. Okay, perfect. All right, so I just tagged you in the feed. And then, like I said, it'll just take me a couple minutes to get everything shared out.
Sounds good, man. Just pay me when you're ready to go.
Yes, sir. All right, welcome, anybody logging on. We should be getting started in a few minutes. Do me a favor and like and share the video so we can get the word out to as many people as possible. We have a great interview lined up with J.R. Foster. So do us a favor, hit that like button and make sure you share. And we'll be getting started in a few minutes. It's funny because no matter how soon I try to start start this process, I never could get started right at 7. It's always something that ends up popping up. All right, let's see. Thanks everybody for your patience. I wish I had some background music. I'm still trying to figure out how to get the background music to play when I got my headphones on. So y'all just gonna have to deal with a little bit of silence for a minute, but I got you. Do me a favor, let me know where you are logging on from. Just drop your city in the comments. Take a minute to check out JR's bio. Let me know if you got any questions beforehand while we've got this man on the line. And definitely ask any questions as we're going through. And I'll be watching the comments for any questions. And we are almost there, about another 2 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and go live with the interview. All right.
Hey, bro, how do I share this?
So from your, if you just go to your page, you should see the video on your timeline, and then all you got to do is hit the share button.
On, you talking about my Facebook page?
Yeah, your
I got you.
Yep.
You. Yep.
And then if you want to share it to any like special, specific page or anything like that, you just you can just hit the share button and then share directly to the group or copy the link and share the link on a page. Um, I've got a good routine. I share it with about 20, 25 organizations or groups if I can catch them all. Um,
I think that worked.
all right, perfect. So it's 7:04. I'm gonna hit a couple more posts and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. I don't want to keep you all waiting too long and definitely don't want to keep JR waiting. JR, if you need a bottle of water, man, you might want to go ahead and grab it. I know you've been working out.
Yeah,
Uh,
man. Let me grab some water real quick.
yeah, go
Hold
ahead, man.
on.
I got you.
All right, bro.
Okay. All right, man. Like I said, I'm gonna be a man of my word. I'm gonna go ahead and respect your time. I got a couple more posts I'm trying to do, but I definitely want to get started. And before we get started, man, just want to say, JR, man, thank you for hopping on the line, man. I know you are a busy man, and we're gonna definitely dig into some of that. But I appreciate you for logging on, and I don't want to keep you from your family because I know you got a busy day, busy night every night with the family and the business and everything. So let me introduce JR. So JR Foster, I always call you JR. I don't know if you prefer
That's
JR
right.
or James. But J.R. Foster is a highly successful entrepreneur and real estate investor based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. As an entrepreneur, former investment banker, servant leader, proud husband, and he's also the father of 4 boys. JR is passionate about helping business leaders win both at home and in the boardroom. With over a decade in corporate America, JR was given the gift of perseverance back in 2008 when his employer, Lehman Brothers at the time, was shut down. Although a challenging time for our country, this was a defining moment in his career, and it helped propel him into his desire to pursue entrepreneurial endeavors. Since 2008, JR has been wildly successful as a co founder and managing partner of Robert Lewis Capital and Robert Lewis Group, along with maintaining controlling interests in a demolition company, risk advisory firm, and real estate investment family office. These successes have given JR the opportunity to live out his true life mission, which is to help leaders change the visible by helping them change the invisible. Currently, JR lives in Cincinnati with his amazing wife and 4 growing boys. He is an active skier, traveler, foodie, man of faith, and lover of the arts. And finally, JR has degrees from DePaul University and Babson College. Welcome, JR. Give you that
Hi,
digital
man.
applause.
Appreciate it, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem, man. Like I said, thanks for taking time out. So, the first question, man, is just tell us a little bit. I know I read your bio, but just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, man. Well, first and foremost, I've been watching you do this for your thing for a minute, so I'm excited to be on here and excited to see your growth and your vision and your channel. Um, I'm a Cincinnati guy, born and raised. I've been in and around real estate my entire career. I'm passionate, as you mentioned, just about giving back to entrepreneurs, giving back to real estate investors. So many people, and we'll unpack this later, gave back to me and poured into me, not only just in real estate, but in my faith and, being a better man. I come from a really big Cincinnati family, 52 first cousins. Mom and dad have been married for 60 years.
Mm.
So, it's a blessing to grow up in a Black household with that kind of love in the room. But I carry all those principles, in my daily life with my family and my 4 boys and my wife. And so, seeing such a loving household growing up is translatable not only in business but also in what I do every day as a family man, as a leader and a follower of God and a leader in the business world. So again, excited to be here, excited to share. I'm an open book, as I told you. So any questions, ask away. No question's a dumb question.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I love it. That was a great intro, man. You dropped a lot of nuggets on us. And I want to ask, I've got a lot of questions. Some of the
Okay.
questions I'll ask as we go. And we may bounce around a little bit on timeline, just if, a opportunity pops up for me to ask the question. But I think one of the first questions I'll ask you, and you kind of touched on this a little bit with coming from a strong family foundation. One of the things about Wealth Talk Tuesdays is I interview a lot of different people in a lot of different industries with a lot of different life journeys. And I like to try to get a little more context on what was life like, what was their life like in their childhood, what was their childhood experience like, and how did that impact and influence who they are today, especially when it comes to pursuing entrepreneurship, pursuing, in this case, investing, real estate, finance, and all that stuff. But how
Yeah.
did your upbringing, and what was that like, and how did that influence and impact you a little bit more in terms of pursuing entrepreneurship and developing into the person you are today?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. Can you hear me okay? Just want to make
Yeah.
sure I'm coming across clear.
Yep. You're good.
Yeah, man, this is like the best question to ask me, just because I tell people all the time I was fortunate to be born in the family that I was born into.
Mhm.
Um, as I mentioned before, family, mother and father have been married 60 years. I have three older sisters. That's kind of like having four mothers in a household, but I also had a strong dad. And people are like, well, were you spoiled when you were growing up? And not at all. Right. I mean, not being the only boy in the house, I had to do everything
Mhm.
with my dad: clean the gutters, cut the grass, work in the family business. But I'll start back in the beginning. My parents got married at 14 and 16.
Mm.
Had their first kid. My mom was 15, my dad was 17. Right. So
Mm.
you unpack that a little bit. My parents didn't graduate high school. Right. So they
Mm.
started out, a lot like a lot of folks that came from the South up north, started out in factory jobs. Right. My mom worked for Seagram's over across the river in Lawrenceburg.
Mm.
My, my father worked for General Motors for 47 years in a transmission plant, stamping the
Wow.
same,
Yeah.
same thing over and over again. So they really lived the American dream of, going to work, working hard, blue collar. And that manifested throughout my entire life. When I
Mm.
was little and young, I mean, I had to get up every morning at 7 in the morning, whether it was summertime or whether it was, school day, because my parents believed in, strong work ethics. And that
Mhm.
carried through not only through myself, my sisters. So we didn't have a lot of money growing up by any stretch of the means. And I don't think my parents made over $50,000 in one year. But
Yeah.
what we did have a lot of is we had a lot of faith, and we had a lot of love in the house, and we had a lot of instillment in hard work and those traits that carry on to where I am today.
Mhm.
I tell people all the time, no one worked harder than my mom and my dad, and I
Yeah.
saw that every day. And so, growing in a house of love, house of faith, house of just being truthful to who you are, and being a man of your word and integrity. Those were the things that were instilled in me, which carried through to what I believe today and what I teach my sons, and just how I even enter into business deals. Life growing up, we weren't there was no entrepreneurial endeavors that were taught to me. But
Mhm.
thinking back, there were so many things and so many nuggets that were dropped on me today that I carry, in my own life. For example, my father started a grass cutting company
Mm.
when I was 10 years old. And the only
Mm.
reason he did that is so that we could have a bonding experience
Mm.
and work together. He would come home from his first shift. He would go in at 4 in the morning and get home at 3. We
Mm.
would hitch up the trailer, cut 4 or 5 grass, yards, and then I would do my homework, and then he would go down and sleep and then wake back up. We did that every year from age 10 until I was 21, until I
Wow.
got my first job out of college. So all those things, you don't think about those, and you don't see your father as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, as a grass cutter, as a lawn
Mhm.
man. But there was so many things that I got to see from him: how he handled his clients, how he
Mhm.
collected money, just all that stuff.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of a great upbringing. My parents are yin and yang. My mom's the wild one and crazy and fun. My dad's laid back, kind of the quiet gentleman. But their 60 years worked, and it
Yeah.
worked because they opposites attract. So that's a little
Yeah.
bit about my upbringing. It was amazing to be born in the family, and I'm so happy I was.
Mm. Man, that was a lot. So definitely a couple things I heard. You talked about principles,
Yeah,
the principles, the work ethic, the integrity, the getting up every day, and whether it's a grind of working in a factory, or in your case the grind of building businesses.
yeah,
There's something that's inseparable between success. And whether that's again high level success where we're talking billions of dollars, or the success of just maintaining a family and going to work every day,
yeah,
that work ethic. And you cannot get ahead, you cannot maintain without having a strong work ethic. And I
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting to hear about your background. My Just real quick, so I didn't grow up in such a strong family unit. I
Okay,
actually didn't really grow up with my mom. It was kind of on and off. And I never met my father. So I
right.
was mostly raised by my grandparents. And although they didn't have a lot of money, my
Yeah,
grandfather still, as I look back on it, still instilled a lot of that work ethic, right?
hmm,
Like I had to do the dishes. I had to get up.
yeah,
Sometimes I'd have to get up in the middle of the night because the dishes weren't done,
yeah,
taking the trash out, cutting the grass, learning how to, change car oil and
yeah,
shoveling the snow and different things like that. And over time, by the time I was, 8, 9, 10 years old, I was every winter, I was up and down the street trying to shovel snow,
oh
right?
yeah,
Every summer I was up and down the street trying to cut grass.
yeah,
And that type of go and get it mentality, that work mentality, that really has transferred over in every stage of my life. And it's funny because we don't think about these little things that happen in our
hmm,
childhood until we
yep,
get older, and our understanding and our awareness certainly raises, man. So that's interesting. So and this is just jumping ahead because I'm curious about the name. So Robert Lewis Capital, you own a couple companies,
yeah.
but your main company is under the umbrella of Robert Lewis Capital. So can you tell us a little bit about the name Robert Lewis Capital, and then tell us a little bit about the business or the businesses that you're involved in?
Yeah, I will, man. So the umbrella company is Robert Lewis, and underneath that brand, we have Robert Lewis Capital and Robert Lewis Group. The name Robert Lewis came from my middle name, which is James Robert Foster Robert, and my business partner's middle name. He's David Lewis Hornberger. So we took our two middle names and came up with Robert Lewis Group. And group is just encapsulates, groups of companies, right?
Hmm.
But we are a full service real estate company, all fashioned around commercial real estate. So Robert Lewis Capital is a real estate investment capital firm. We help investors and developers secure capital for their real estate purchases, refinances, and construction. So, individuals come to us seeking capital, right? They come to us for $1 million loan or a $5 million loan or a $30 million loan, and we have the lending relationships that we bring to the table and help them secure the capital to do so. We work with a lot of fixers and flippers and wholesalers that are buying $50,000 properties, putting 100 into it, and we bring that capital to the table and help them get the financing they need to move forward.
Hmm.
So that's the capital side. And then the Robert Lewis Group side, we're a commercial real estate agency. So we have a bunch of commercial real estate agents, as well as a commercial real estate property management, property maintenance company. So
Hmm.
that's my day to day. That's what I run. That's what I do. And then I've got some controlling interest in other companies, but that's the part of that business right there. But I can get into the other controlling interests if you want me to.
It's all good. Yeah, we'll circle back on that, man.
Yep.
Honestly, I wish we had more than an hour, because it's not every day you get the opportunity to sit down and speak with somebody who has such a dynamic background and such dynamic business interests. And I think that there's so much value that you bring to the table, and there's so much value that I know that our listeners would be able to gain from that. So I wish we had more than an hour, but definitely, we are going to pull you back in for a couple other things.
That'd be great.
Um, yeah, so with the name, one of the questions I thought of is, what does the power of a name and
Hmm.
being able to live off of, not so much live off of it, but utilizing and having more, I guess, pride and having more faith and confidence in the power of a name, and being able to use that name to empower you to, to build something big,
Hmm.
to build opportunity. I think that's one of the most foundational things when it comes to entrepreneurship is taking an idea, right, and creating a vehicle that can ultimately produce revenue and produce profit. And
Yep.
in this case, you've done it off of the strength of your name. So,
Yep.
any thoughts or ideas on that?
Yeah, man. You were asking some great questions. You're like CNN.
My
I
bad,
mean, that's a great question, man. No one's ever asked that before, but you hit a nail on the head, because that is actually that continuity between the name of the business and how we perform, how, again, integrity, our principles, our values and mission
Mhm,
is what we live and breathe every day, because it is tied to our name.
mhm.
Um, and so when, like you said, from inception, we started our company from scratch. I didn't buy a
Yeah.
company. I didn't, I didn't inherit a company. We started it from day one, $0, and grew it to where it is today. But that
Mhm,
name is critical because it is attached to both Dave and I, and everyone knows that asks about our name. They know that it's connected to us. So,
mhm,
when we were writing out our values of our business, our mission statement, and our core competencies, they were tied to the name Robert Lewis, and it
mhm,
reflects where he comes from. It reflects where I come from, but it also reflects the diversity of the folks that are in our company as well. They live and
mhm.
breathe that Robert Lewis name every day, because they know the owners of the company, are two guys, two stand-up guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, all right. So up until 21, you were cutting grass, right? Going to high school. What high
Yep.
school did you go to, by the way?
Locally, I went to Cincinnati Country Day.
Okay. Yep. Yep. All right.
Yep.
So going to high school by 21, you were off to college, coming back in the summers. So when you went off to college, what did you major in? How did you choose your major? Start to kind of give us that journey from high school to college, and then we'll jump into the Lehman Brothers. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll start back even a little bit further. So I
Mhm.
grew up right outside of Wyoming in Springfield Township.
Yep.
I was actually supposed to go to Winton Woods. That would have
Mhm.
been my school of just natural selection.
Mhm.
Um, I was a soccer player, very rare, obviously, black guy playing soccer.
Okay.
I turned out to be pretty good. I was given a special gift by God to be a pretty nice soccer player,
Okay.
and so that took me a lot of different places in my career. Right, even as a young age, I traveled a lot. I got to meet a
Mhm.
lot of good people, and it actually got me the opportunity at Cincinnati Country Day, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
So I went
Yeah.
to a soccer camp my seventh grade year. I was in the Winton Woods program, Winton Woods School program. I went to a soccer camp at Country Day, and seventh grade. They were like, "Wow, we really like you. We could see you going here." One thing led to another. I was able to, scrape enough cash together, and my family
Yeah.
was, and go to Country Day. So Country Day was great. It was a learning experience. I had never been around that kind of money before, those
Mhm.
type of folks, and so it made me and opened my eyes to a lot of different, caliber of people, but also it made me think past what I saw every day, right?
Mhm.
And so that also made me aspire to go to college, right? No one in
Mhm.
my family had gone to college. Like I said, my parents didn't graduate high school. My
Mhm.
sisters graduated high school, but that was really the extent of kind of where we were as a family. So I was kind of the guy that was going to take the family to the next level. So with that, I went off to college. I went to DePaul University, uh, played soccer there, ran track, and just got exposed to a number of different folks in that arena. DePaul is an amazing school,
Mhm.
great liberal arts school. Not DePaul with an L, which is in Chicago, DePaul with the W, which is in Greencastle, Indiana. Make that known. But yeah, man, I mean, I give it a lot to just the hard work, but also soccer took me to a lot of places that I never would have been. And then also just the amount of education and the potential of the schools that I went to really shined a different light on, and guided me in different ways, and really a reflection of where I am today.
Mm. No, that's powerful. Um, Man, it's really interesting how we've definitely gone it and we've had different life journeys, but there
Yeah,
were those periods of time that were so transformative for us is very similar. When I
yeah,
was in Cincinnati, I think at the time I was actually back and forth. It was kind of crazy, but I ended up
yeah.
at Roger Bacon,
Oh
and
yeah,
yeah, I went to Roger Bacon, and I
yep,
just happened to I happened to look up on Roger Bacon because I had a conversation with the interim principal at my middle school and was like,
Mm,
look, man, I don't want to go to Withrow. At the time,
yeah,
that was my school because my grandparents lived in Roseline. I was like, look, man, I don't want to go there. Like, I know, I mean, I just
yeah,
don't want to go there. And so
yeah,
he was like, all right, man, just meet me, come back in about a week and we'll talk. And I came back and he was like, look, man, this is what I need you to do. And at the time, I didn't even really know anything about Bacon. I didn't
right.
really know anything about his background. I just had a family member that encouraged me to say, hey, why don't you go talk to your principal? I'm assuming that they, being an adult, had a little more knowledge about, who this guy was and where he came from in terms of the school he used to work at. And so he called me into his office and he was like, hey, I just need you to, take this test. Do you think you can take this test? I was like,
Mm,
sure. So I went to Roger Bacon, took the placement test, and
yep,
next thing I know, I didn't have to pay for Roger Bacon for the next 4 years, man.
yep.
And that experience totally changed my life and exposed me, to different things, to different people, et cetera, et cetera. So for the people who aren't watching, let's just try to cover this really quickly for the people who aren't watching or who are watching who aren't from Cincinnati, because we have a lot of people who aren't from Cincinnati watching. How could
Yeah.
you contextualize was it Cincinnati
Cincinnati Country Day.
Cincinnati Country Day? How could you summarize that to kind of give people an idea of what you mean by that level of money, that level of access and influence, because they really don't may not know anything about the school.
Yeah, and you hit your head in the nail on the head too, because like you were saying, you didn't know much about Roger Bacon. I didn't know anything about Country Day. I had never been
Yeah.
to Indian Hill, right? I
Hmm.
mean, just wasn't a part of my lifestyle or how I grew up. But just to conceptualize it, I mean, when you think about Country Day, you think about some of the top CEO
Hmm.
families in the country. We had at the time close friends of mine, the Zimmermans. Their father was CEO of Macy's at the time.
Mm.
We had David Pepper and his family. His father was CEO of Procter and Gamble. I
Mm.
mean, you're
Yeah.
rubbing shoulders with kids that their parents are the top CEOs of major organizations and major
Hmm.
corporations across the country and globally, right?
Hmm.
And so you're seeing a different type of individual that had money. And the great thing I loved about Country Day is the kids were humble. Their parents
Mm.
may have been gazillionaires,
Hmm.
but they were humble kids. I mean, I remember just conceptually, a kid got a Hummer for his 16th birthday,
Okay.
right? And so you think through that.
Yeah.
It was difficult to get acclimated to, but at the
Hmm.
same time, because there wasn't a lot of folks that looked like me,
Yeah.
because I came from a very diverse Witten Woods program to a program that wasn't as diverse.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change it for the world.
No, got it, got it. And Cincinnati actually has a great school system.
Yeah.
I mean, between all of the Catholic schools, some of
Yep.
the private schools, Cincinnati is a great place to raise a family. So with that, let's actually touch on your family a little bit, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, man. So not only are you an entrepreneur and a owner of multiple businesses, you're a proud husband
Yeah.
and a father of four. So what is life like? And how do you, and I wanted to ask this question too, what is life like on a daily basis outside of the business with the family? And then how do you categorize balance in your life? And then how do you find and maintain that balance?
So life is crazy, man.
Yeah.
We've got four boys. Three of our boys are 18 months apart, and we have three under three. So my wife is a beast.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know anything else, man. I just know love, and I love my family, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Meaning our life is crazy. We're on the go 24/7. But what you said is where it really matters. We have a great work-life balance. My wife and I are very much able to shed things off on each other and we play really well in the sandbox together.
Mm.
As far as bath times, reading at night, we
Mhm.
read the Bible to our kids every night. We read them a story every night.
Mhm.
I'm the cook in the house, so
Yep.
I'm up. So I'll give you my routine, man. I'm up at like 5:30. I'm home by 5:30, and
Okay.
then I'm making dinner, and then she goes gets the boys. But one of the things that I've grown to love about the family, and just me as a father, is that I get to take my kids to school every day as an entrepreneur,
Mm,
right? I can
mm,
go pick them up in the middle of the day if they're sick. So
mm,
it gives me the entrepreneurial lifestyle gives me the ability to be a better dad. I feel like,
mm,
just because I'm very, very, very present in my kids' lives. And so,
mm,
anyway, that's a little bit about us. But my wife works at Jewish Hospital, and
mhm.
she's an excellent mother, an excellent partner, and we enjoy our boys immensely.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey man, you make it sound easy.
Hey man,
Hey man,
if
I'm
you
up at
if you have a great
5:30.
mate, if you have a great mate, it's easy, man.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you.
No, trust me, man. We only have one kid, and everything moves really, really good. And
Yeah,
we have one of the benefits is when you marry your best friend, right? Like
yep,
you marry your
yep,
best friend, there's no shortage of love, man. Then everything is good, right? Like
yeah,
every day is peaceful, every day is happy, and part of that love and that friendship really sets a good foundation for you all to be able to work together and to be able to
yeah,
communicate and to be able to manage all of the different nuances of being in love, being married, having kids, and things like that. So one thing you said, I thought this was interesting because I'm not the cook. I cook sometimes, but for our fellas who are watching, who may have more of that traditional mindset, I know a lot of times what holds marriages back, what holds relationships back, is thinking or living in this idea that there are predefined roles
mm,
where okay, the wife should be the cook, right? The wife should
yeah,
be the person doing this. In our household, we don't really have those kind of predefined roles in a sense like I expect her to do this, this, and this. It's kind of
yep,
like, all right, I'm gonna do this day. You're gonna do this day. We just kind of know each other, and depending on the type of day we've had, depending on what type of, a lot of different
oh yeah,
nuances. It's not really just like I expect her to do this, and this just because she's the wife. And
right,
we don't have those problems that other people would have if they're trying to hold to these, you got to be doing this because you're the wife in the household or you're the husband,
yeah,
so to speak. So I find that interesting that you're the cook. So are you the cook the majority of the time, all the time,
all the
half the
time,
time?
baby, all the
Okay.
time.
All right.
So it's funny though that was actually a not a rub, but I come from a very traditional family.
Mm,
Guys do the guy stuff, ladies do
yeah.
the lady stuff. However you define that, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to, for the folks out there that might shoot me,
Right.
but that's just what I grew up doing,
Yeah.
right? But so coming to into a relationship, and you learn from other relationships, right?
Hmm.
But we kind of just fell into a really good pattern. Nobody wants me washing clothes. It's gonna come back two sizes
Yeah.
shorter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No one wants me cleaning the house because I'll miss 18 spots that she
Yeah. Yeah.
clearly sees, right?
Yeah.
So we just kind of naturally fell into roles that fit what we were good at.
Yep.
I'm a good cook, so I took on that role. I
Yep.
like it because I like having a lot of things going on at once. I like being in the kitchen. I like, I just love cooking, right?
Yep.
So that naturally fell on me. But I mean, I hear you, man. There's a lot of folks and a lot of young men that I counsel where they're like, well, she should be doing the cooking and she should be doing this. And it's
Hmm.
not like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't
No,
do that. A successful relationship won't happen if that's the mindset.
yeah, no, I think you hit it right on the head, man. It's similar, similar in this household. Like I cannot stand, when my wife does the laundry because I'm so particular about like, no, you got to separate the clothes and they got to be cold and hot and warm.
Right.
Then you got to add the fabric softener with the detergent, and like it's
See, I
got to
know
be,
nothing about that.
yeah, man, it's got to be right. But the funny thing about it is, I grew up going to the laundromat. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I mean,
Yep.
that was how we washed our clothes.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not just washing clothes. There's a process to that. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I would be at the laundromat at midnight, 1 a.m.
Yeah.
in the morning, 2 in the morning, because nobody was there and we could get as many washers and dryers as we needed,
Right.
without interruption. And then we had to fold the clothes before we could put them in the bag, so it's like
Yeah.
depending on how that person grew up, they may have or may not have developed certain, skills or certain wants and hey, I don't like doing this. And so like you said, man, if you're aware and you
Yeah.
are under the impression or under the mindset that we're working together either way, then we're going to naturally fall into our roles, and it's going to benefit the household
For sure.
overall anyway. All right, so man, let's move on, man. I think we talked a little enough about some relationships. So let's talk about what are actually let's jump back to, all right, so you went to DePaul with the W, not with the L, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
and from DePaul you went straight to Lehman.
So I went straight to Staubach Company, which is JLL. It's a commercial real estate
Oh yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah.
They are now JLL. So I worked there for 4 years. I was a commercial real estate agent in
Really?
that
Okay.
platform. Had a great thing going,
Yeah.
and got tapped by Lehman Brothers because I have a finance background,
Okay.
and rode the Wall Street wave for a number of years. Lehman Brothers, J.P. Morgan,
Okay.
to name a few, and got a lot of great experience. Became a managing partner pretty quickly, and I tell people all the time, Lehman was such a great company. If it did not collapse, in the last downturn, I probably would still be there,
Mm,
just because it allowed for so much entrepreneurial, spreading of your wings,
mm,
that I could do even some of the things that I'm doing now, especially on the real estate side and buying real estate and buying
mm,
apartment buildings. I would have been able to do that. Now I wouldn't have been able to start a company, but it was entrepreneur enough that I wouldn't have had to scratch that itch.
mm. That's interesting, man. That's
Yep.
man, JR, you have done so much, man. Just when I think I know a little bit about you, man, you dropped me with another one. It's like, yeah, man, I did the commercial real estate agent thing for 4 years, had a good thing going, then jumped here, jumped there. Man, you have a really, really impressive background. And also, I always, people don't really think about this, or they may not talk about it, but even being a brother, man. I
Whew.
mean, you've accomplished a lot, man. So I always like to recognize that. It's funny, before we hopped on, I wanted to look this up a little bit earlier. I don't know
Okay.
if you've read this book by Steve Schwartzman.
No, but I'll check it out. What's the name of it?
It's called What It Takes.
Okay.
You know who Steve is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So for anybody who's not watching, he's the head of Blackstone Group, I believe, largest or one of the largest private equity firms
Oh yeah.
in the world. With I think last count was like $536 billion or something in assets under management. But anyway, he's got an excerpt in here where he talks about the conversation he had with I believe the CEO of Lehman
Yep.
at the
Yep.
time, and he talks about that conversation and how the guy was feeling when everything basically hit the fan, and he realized that, hey, I'm the head of this organization that has this story history, and it's going to fall on my watch, and it's going to fall on my watch to a degree based on some of the decisions that I had made. So I wanted to try to find that excerpt, man, before we hopped on, and I was going to read it to you to just kind of see how that jogged the memory a little bit
Mm.
at all. But anyways, it's actually a good book. It's Lessons in the Pursuit of Excellence. So,
That
but
was it was an interesting time, man. I mean, I tell people all the time, people ask me how was it being there during the crash, and it was surreal. I
mm,
mean, being at Lehman Brothers, we had, if you kind of look back, the writing on the wall was there. We knew something
mhm,
big was going to happen. I don't think anybody could have predicted a global shutdown of a global company.
mm,
But just seeing our division going through a lot of change. Our boss got let go early on in the process. He was making like 12 million a year,
mm,
and we were killing it. So we were like, well,
yeah,
why is a man that's making so much money getting let go on a division that's really doing well? But getting into it at the end of the day was, you walk out with your box in your hand, your
yeah,
your late 20s, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what's next? And
yeah.
so, yeah,
And that rolls us into the next question. So at that point, 2008, man, is a crazy time. I mean,
yeah,
you hear stories. I was listening to some stuff today, and they were just talking about, how they lost their shirt in 2008. A lot of people went bankrupt. Not just the corporations, but personal, individual investors and the
yeah.
companies that they had, and all of this craziness is going on. So at this point, from the time that you got laid off, about how much time was it until you started your company? And then what was that decision making process? I know in the bio it mentioned it kind of, it gave you the gift of perseverance. So what was that experience like again, going from having a good situation, good opportunity, taking advantage of it, to all right, now I I don't know what's going on,
Right.
like, I mean, basically, like you said, I'm walking
Yeah.
out with my box, and it's a totally new beginning. So what was that transition like? What was that mindset like? And ultimately, starting your company, kind of what was that like?
Man, and to be perfectly honest, it was devastating. I mean,
Mm,
it was devastating from the standpoint that we were making really good money. We were,
mhm.
I was seeing the future ahead of me. I was like, I'm putting a lot of good things in place. I'm one of the only brothers in this bad boy,
Yeah.
making moves. But like I said, it gave me the gift of perseverance, because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And so, thinking back on it, I took about 6 months to just
Mhm.
regroup, and I had a lot of things that I had just purchased too. I had just purchased a new
Mm,
home. I had
mm,
just purchased a new car, so
mhm.
you're thinking through things like that, like,
Yeah.
man, what am I going to do? I knew I
Yeah.
had the skill set to go back and be an employee again, or be in
Mhm.
corporate America. I knew I had that. But what was interesting about that time, my skill set, all the financial industry was currently being held hostage, right? So
Mhm.
even the best jobs out there, where people were getting let go from,
Mm.
Goldman Sachs and
Yeah.
all these other major investment banking firms. So what I did is I took a job with JP Morgan, which is
Mhm.
no slouch of a firm. I mean,
Yeah.
they're Jamie Dimon is an amazing leader. And so I took that job just to really reset, right? To get
Mhm.
my feet wet again. And but all along with that process, so that was like 2009 to 2011, I just really plotted and planned to start my own
Mhm.
company. And
Yeah.
so I met with my business partner, who's my business partner now, who we've known each other since seventh grade.
Mhm.
We would have beers at night after work and just talk about, what does our ideal company look like, and let's
Mhm.
start this. If I'm going to bet on anybody, I'm going to bet on myself.
Mhm.
And so that's really where the spark started, was working at JP Morgan, and at night kind of planning my own company. And so then in 2011 we set out, really like late 2010, we set out and started our own company.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. No, that's good, man. Definitely that point of devastation. A couple things there, like that experience isn't gonna last forever, right?
Right.
And like you said, it gave you the gift of perseverance to
Yeah.
persevere through, whatever challenges, whatever difficulties you were facing, and you started to plot a plan and a path forward. I
Yep.
think that's important too, because when we go through those difficult times, sometimes that's when people stop, right?
Yeah.
That's when people
Yep.
give up. That's when people think that, hey, it's not meant to happen, and that's not necessarily the case. The case was, the case is, hey, this is the situation. Let me
Right.
kind of take time to step back and reassess, where I am, where things may have went wrong, and then what
Right.
opportunities still lie ahead of me. And then another thing you talked about, which I think is really important, is you talked about, okay, as we charted this path forward, one, I decided that, hey, I was going to bet on myself.
Yep.
So betting on yourself, I guess the question there is, was it the experience of being let go and seeing, hey, I can, at any given time, a company could let me go.
Right.
Um, was that what kind of gave you a little more umph to say, look,
Mm.
I want a little more security, and that security may come at the cost of me trying to build this company, but I'm willing to bet on myself, for that level of security and control over my
Yep.
future.
Yeah, so twofold on that. I was at the mindset now that I was never gonna let anybody else's wrongdoings
Mm,
affect my future, right? So
mm,
there was a lot of folks, within the Lehman platform that had some wrongdoings that led
mm,
to, the collapse. So
mm,
I never wanted to put someone else's trust in someone else's path that
mm.
would affect my path.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. The second thing is, you going back to betting on yourself. I knew that I had the skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
because I had proven myself in corporate America. I
Mm-hmm.
was top 10% in all my companies that I had been a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I'm making a lot of people a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't I bet on myself and do the same for me? I've got the same skill set. And then I
Mm-hmm.
just figured out, hey, I can do this. I can partner with the big boys to get global exposure, but
Mm-hmm.
I can be a hometown name
Mm,
doing local great work.
I like it. I like it.
Yep.
And then from there, you let's see, 744. And then from there, you and your business partner, we'll touch on that in a second. You
Oh
went
yeah.
into brainstorming mode, and not only did you go through brainstorming mode, but then you took that additional step and you actually started applying to action. And I think that's a really important step that a lot of people, they may have the idea of, hey, I want to go out on my own, but
Yep.
some of the ingredients that they're missing, some of the ingredients that you mentioned is, hey, the confidence, right? Like I
Right.
had enough confidence in myself because I had produced this, although, and this actually is funny because this takes us back to the very beginning of the conversation, but you said, hey, I had produced this and I
Right.
performed at this level. I had just done it under someone else's banner, right?
Exactly.
But if I could do it there, I know I can do it for myself and I have that confidence. And now we transition from somebody else's banner to now I have my name, right? And then my
Right.
business partner, we have our names and
Yep.
we're doing it under our banner. So bringing now our level of skill that we've been compensated for in another structure, we're just
Right.
going to change our perspective and our purview a little bit, and we're going to open up our own shop under our own brand and under our own name, and still be able to perform and perform at higher levels, and then leverage the knowledge, right, that we got while we were working for this company. I always like to tell people, like, if you're going to work somewhere, let it be
Yep.
a twofold exchange, right? Like take all of
Exactly.
that information, take all of that knowledge and see how can you apply it, to your own life. So one of the things too that that was that I think was is awesome with your situation is that you have a business partner who right?
Yeah.
Like you say, hey, I've known him since the seventh grade. So you have the longevity of friendship there. You have the
Right.
longevity of actually knowing this person. So my next question is, um, any insight or any thoughts around partnerships, because partnerships can go either way, right? Like they can be
Oh yeah.
good, they can be bad, and of
Yep.
course obviously in your situation has been good, built on the strength of a relationship. So any insight or information you can give on partnerships as well as vetting potential partners, and kind of the process that you might go through or some of the questions you might go through when vetting a potential partner, whether it be in a business or an investment. Just what are some of your thoughts on that?
I think it's that you can't mess up the partner thing. That is the biggest one of the biggest parts of being in business. You're either going to do it yourself or you're going to have partners. And
Mm,
I always say a partnership is like a marriage.
yep.
If you're evaluating your partner like you're evaluating your soulmate, just because you're gonna be spending as much time with your business partner as you are with your mate, right? And
Mhm,
so you got to be able to know that there is a strong communication there, because again, like any relationship, communication is key.
mhm,
So I'm a big proponent of having partnerships,
mhm,
but having partnerships that have all the same sort of characteristics that you would have in a real relationship. So
mhm,
Dave and I are thick as thieves. We have high integrity for each other. I trust
mhm,
him completely, without equivocation. I mean, I just trust the guy, right?
mhm,
Just as I trust my wife. So at the
mhm,
end of the day, you have to, if you are going to get in a partnership, make sure it's the right partnership,
mhm.
or be protected in the right ways, because I see a lot of folks go down slippery slopes with thinking they're going to get in a partnership with a good friend of theirs, or they
Mhm.
pull somebody off the street, just because they might have one skill set that they do not have. I think it needs to be a courting process that you need to take long before you actually start a company,
Mhm.
and that goes with business partners that I have in other businesses. I don't just jump into a business with somebody else unless I've known them for a long time. And all the businesses that I have outside of my day to day, I've known those cats for 10, 12 years, if not more.
Mm, mm. Okay. No, that's powerful. I think that's a big piece is the 10 to 12-year piece. You're like, man, we have some we got some long relationships. Like I really know these people.
I want to
And
be
one
able to
of
reach out and touch you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Right.
one of the key words you talked about too is the trust factor. The trust factor is huge.
Yeah.
And also the relationship factor. So if you aren't able to maintain quality relationships in your personal life, you're gonna have a hard time maintaining,
Yep.
good and quality relationships in your business life. So, always, evaluate how you treat people, and how you respond to people, and what your actual relationships are like. So, all right, so let's see. It's 7:49, man. I got you for a couple more minutes. Let's talk about what do you see? What is your vision? For the next 5 to 10 years. Kind of what's your big vision at this point? Are you comfortable? You still goal setting? Kind of what and I'm gonna tell you this, man. One of the things that changed my life this year, and I saw you post about this a couple, probably like 2 months ago, and I've seen it, before, but I had never done it. But you said you write your goals down every day. So I know you're a planning man. I know you're a visionary. So what are some of those 5, 10 year goals? What's a little bit of that big vision look like?
Yeah, man. So I'm big on business planning and just planning in general in all aspects of life, personal life and my business life. I feel as if you don't know where you're going, how you're going to get there, right?
Mm,
And so that's my big kind of takeaway every day. But I got a routine, man. I write out a vision plan every year. I write a 1, 3, and 5 year vision.
mm,
So my 5 year vision, man, I can rattle it off for you, man. I want to have 500 apartment units. I want the business to be at a place where we've got managers in place where Dave and I can just be more chairmen of the board,
mm,
and then facilitate vision and strategy down to the team. And then, our awesome manager core really, really penetrates our employee base and, kind of spreads that message throughout the company.
mm.
46-year-old birthday, I'll be 46 November 9th, 2026, baby. It's
Okay.
already on there. It's already written. I'll be in Barbados, in a house in Barbados,
Okay.
retired with option to retire.
Okay.
I will never retire, but I want the option to retire
Yep.
at that time.
Yep.
3 year goal, I'll have 250 apartment units. Similar stuff like, my kids will be going to private school.
Mm-hmm.
Business will be in a certain place.
Mm-hmm.
Business will be at a point where we could sell the business,
Mm-hmm.
if we ever wanted to. So we're building right now for growth.
Mm-hmm.
1 year goal. I've got a number of apartment units now, so I'll be at 200 units by the end of the year for my
Mm-hmm.
1 year goal.
Mm-hmm.
Business will be in certain areas where we're kind of implementing different technologies into the business.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be fully vetted. We'll be debt free by the end of the year,
Powerful.
which is
Mm-hmm.
great. Businesses are never debt free. But I have family goals. I've got faith goals. So when I look at my goals, man, I've got family, friends, faith, fitness,
Mm-hmm.
and fun. That's my categories that I fill up every day. And I've got a morning routine. I wake up at 5:30. I do affirmations. I pray twice a day. I pray in the morning. I pray before I go to sleep. I read my goals out loud. So I read my 5, 3, and 1 year goals. And then I have action steps for each goal for the 1 year goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't read a book, read a book called The 12-Week Year. It's amazing. It tells you how to break down your goals into 12-week chunks. Every 12 weeks is a year. So it really keeps you laser focused.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, you hit it on the head, man. I'm a routine guy, and I don't think you can get really much any places without a routine.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. Especially the older I get, the more I grow in my understanding of business and business management and growth and entrepreneurship, and of course, with life, having that level of clarity,
Yeah,
and having that direction, right, is powerful, because, like you said, if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there, right?
right.
And not just having the general idea of, hey, I kind of want to end up here, but no, it's like I've got specifics, right? I've got that
Yeah,
broken down into a plan of action. And then this is how I review them. I have a morning routine, and this is what I do with my morning routine. You
yep,
really, you really create the habits and the routines and the mindset that ultimately is creating this new human, this new individual, this new person that you ultimately want to see. So, yeah, you touched on a lot of strong points, man. I wish you were a teacher, man. Yeah, I'm serious, man, because like I appreciate having this conversation, because I
yeah,
understand all the nuances of
yep,
growth as a person, right? All the levels, that you traversed in life. And just one that stuck out to me is management, right? Like, although you make it seem easy, you make it look easy, there is a lot of management
Mm,
skill that goes right. Like
yeah.
there's a ton of management skill that goes into your life every single day. Even with you know, mentioning, hey, we have a company that we want to grow to the point where we could potentially sell it if we want to. And, you know,
Right.
I want to, you know, me and my partner, we want to be chairmans. And, you know, everybody doesn't understand the different levels of corporate structure, and then
Yep.
being able to implement a corporate structure into an entrepreneurial vehicle, you know, all of that type of stuff, man. So like I say, you have so much just knowledge and information, man, that you could teach a lot of people about, man. So let's see, it's 7:54, man. We're going to go ahead and kind of wind this down. So
Yep.
again, do us a quick favor and tell us again about what Robert Lewis Capital does, what Robert Lewis Group does, and if anybody finds that they have a need that you could fulfill under that umbrella, how they could get in touch with you.
Yeah, man. So we have three separate divisions within our company. Robert Lewis Group is a real estate brokerage. So we help small business and medium-sized companies on their corporate real estate structure, basically helping them find space to lease, buildings to buy, buildings to sell. We are commercial real estate agents for corporations and small business owners. We also manage a number of pieces of real estate. We do a lot of corporate real estate facility management and maintenance, and government facility management and maintenance. On the Robert Lewis Capital side, we help investors and developers secure capital for their real estate purchases, refinances, and construction. So we have about 200 lenders that are in our network, and we fund about 2.5 billion a year in financing. And so we work with anyone from a wholesaler to an experienced investor that's buying a 200 unit apartment building. So that's what we do. So if anybody's looking for a commercial real estate agent, you know, looking for us to manage their building or looking for financing, that's kind of where you would link up with us.
Okay, perfect. And just two follow-up questions. So
Yeah,
from a commercial standpoint, and I know you've got locations around the country. So
we do.
from a commercial standpoint, is there a geographic limitation on that? And if so, what geographies or what cities and states are you covering? And then from a lending standpoint, is there a geography limitation on that? And if so, what cities, what states, what locations?
Yeah, I'll start out with lending. So lending, we are in all states. We can lend anywhere in the country. We can also lend to foreign nationals too. So if you got anybody that's overseas trying to buy real estate here, we can lend to them. And the way that you look at our business, we can lend to anybody that's going to buy a property that they're not going to live in, right?
Hmm.
So it can't be owner occupied.
Okay.
On the real estate broker side, our real estate agency, commercial real estate agency, we can do business in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. I'm
Okay.
working on a strategic global partnership right now that will allow us to soon, hopefully in the next 6 months, we'll be able to do real estate in all 50 states. So working on that now.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then finally, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, any
Yeah.
contact information
Oh,
or
of course.
yep.
Yeah. So I'm like I said earlier, I'm an open book. So you can reach me on my email. It's jr.foster@robertlewiscapital.com, and Lewis is Louis. So jr.foster@robertlewiscapital.com. Shoot me a text, 513-284-9128, 513-284-9128. That's how you get a hold of me.
All right, perfect, JR. And if you wouldn't mind, if you don't mind, once the video is over, if you could just put that contact information in the comments as well, that'll
We'll
definitely
do.
make it easy for people to reach you. We had a lot of people who watched on live, and we have a lot of people who tend to watch the show over the next 24 hours. So we want to
Okay.
make sure that they're able to get in contact with you for any of their business needs. Finally, thanks again, JR, man. I
Thank you.
appreciate you for getting on, man. I wish we had more time, but
Me too, man. This is
definitely.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Definitely. But JR is going to be doing some teaching for us in the future. So we'll definitely make sure we make those announcements and get the word out. So with that said, man, that's another edition of Wealth Talk Tuesdays. I hope
All
everyone
right,
has
guys.
a great night. All right. Take
All
care.
right. See you guys.
See ya.